So I think in all these travels to all the different cities and talking to the entrepreneurs, you sort of came to the conclusion that the third wave was going to require a different set of skills for entrepreneurs. Can you share that with us?
Well, a different set of skills, and also a broader sense of possibility. Some of the skill sets are things like this. The skill around partnerships is a difficult skill. There are a lot of people who are pretty good at envisioning the future, pretty good at creating a product or service or what have you, but not so good at building relationships that actually build trust that would result in somebody, whether it be a corporate customer or a hospital system or a health plan or a school system, what have you, the breakthrough. So that skill set, I think, is going to be needed for a lot of these teams. Now, that's not to say that there aren't obviously multiple skill sets in any entrepreneurial team, but the skill set around partnerships is going to become much more important in the third wave than it was in the second wave. Similar to the skill set that deal with government, which is hard and requires a certain perspective, a certain patience. That also is going to be important. So the core things that drove the second wave, obviously having a great team was important, will continue to be important. Obviously having a great product and figuring out at some point to morph the product into a broader, more sustainable platform strategy, that will continue to be important. At the core of that, obviously the coding side of it will, of course, continue to be important. But there's some other skills.
So they feel like people skills. They feel almost exclusively like people skills.
I think people skills, and also probably some cultural understanding and or some credibility in that sector.
So do you have to hire economics to help you with that?
I think there will be some of it. I think maybe not as old as we are, but I think there will be less of the 20-something dorm startup. I think there will be some of those continuing. If they're like in your dorm, you're 20-something. I'm not trying to bum you out. But I think there will be more companies that have kind of diverse teams that have these different perspectives. I wouldn't be surprised if the average age of a CEO entrepreneur in the third wave wasn't 30 or 40, not 20.
So our largest cohort here is people with more than 14 years industry experience.
And that's a big deal. Yeah, and that's big. And I think I acknowledge one of the core arguments around disruptors, particularly in Silicon Valley, and there's some truth to it, is sometimes ignorance is a competitive advantage. Naivete is a competitive advantage. Knowing nothing.
Like I said that last week.
Knowing nothing about the sector. Well, if you said it, I hope I'm not now going to.
Now you're going to.
I'm sort of supporting you, but now I'm going to undermine you. So I think that is absolutely true. It's absolutely true. At the same time, in some of these sectors, if you know nothing about teachers, you know nothing about how hospitals function, probably is going to be difficult to break in. So the team will have to bring that fresh perspective, that naivete, that why this or what might be possible kind of perspective. That will continue to be important. But marrying it with some of that kind of ability to then kind of execute it, and different companies doing different things in different industries, working different ways, will require a little bit different playbook. But I think marrying those skill sets. I'm starting our Business Startups Act. It's a very clever name, by the way. Basically, some of the recommendations came from President Obama's Jobs Council, and so initial ideas kind of came out of the White House, and Eric Cantor, who was the majority leader at the time, said, I kind of like those. And he actually, or somebody on his team, came up with the idea of calling it the Jobs Act, because in an election year, how can you vote against the Jobs Act? It's very creative. And so sometimes how you frame these things in one makes a big difference. And so that passed in a bipartisan way, and it created this on-ramp for IPOs, made it easier to do these confidential filings, which a lot of companies are taking advantage of. Changed some of the rules around raising capital that hadn't been updated in years, and legalized crowdfunding.
Well, it took about 3 years to legalize the equity crowdfunding.
Well, the Congress passed a law. It took the SEC 3 years to put the rules in place because they were dragging their feet because they were concerned that this might, and there's some risk to it, there's no question about it. There's a lot of people who don't really understand anything about startups will invest in things and some money get ripped off. And so how do you create a platform where people can raise money? But also, kind of protect people. The reason crowdfunding is so important, still early days, is I think that is one of the game changers in terms of leveling the playing field, in terms of people and place. Right now, the reality is that most of the venture capital, 75% of venture capital goes to 3 states, California, New York, and Massachusetts. Most, the white guys who went to schools and knew the people who are venture capitalists. It's a network, like any company. And only about 10% of venture capital last year went to women. And so if you're a woman, you're disenfranchised. If you're African American, you're disenfranchised. If you're in Chicago, you're kind of, Chicago's better than most parts of the country, but you don't really have the same opportunity to raise capital. And if you have an idea, you've got to take a run at it. And crowdfunding is part of that, and I think it will help create a more inclusive approach to entrepreneurship and give people, if they're in Des Moines or Detroit, not just in Palo Alto or New York City, a shot, and also give a lot of people who haven't really been part of those networks a shot. Which I think is the right thing, the fair thing to do. But I don't think it's a smart thing economically to do. A lot of people with good ideas, how to get all those people playing on the field, and some of those are going to be the next, Google or the next other companies. And so how do you get more of that stuff started? And in the startup phase, and then how do you get more capital to the speed up at that phase? And that's how you drive job growth. It's important. I think it's going to become one of the real phenomenons over the next decade. And Chicago, by the way, and DC, where I live, they're very well positioned for this sort of way. They're better positioned than people think.
So we'll talk about that. My sense is literally on the West Coast that everybody has one foot out the door looking better next job, and that sort of one of the Midwestern values that's absolutely mission critical to success of building a lot of businesses. It's people who stick around, people who are loyal, sort of.
No, I think that's a challenge for Silicon Valley. The good news is there are lots of opportunities. The bad news is, you go to a cocktail party, you can talk about 3 new things, and maybe I should do one of those things. And so people do tend to bounce around. The tenure is generally a lot shorter than it is in other parts of the country. We saw this when we were building Airball. We built it in the DC area, and 3 decades ago it was not entrepreneurial. There was no venture capital there, so we got all our money from other places. And it was hard to recruit people, but it was easier to keep. And I like to believe they love me and love the mission, but I also think they didn't have that many alternatives. It was just they were kind of like stuck. And as a result, there was more of a sense of culture, more of a sense of teamwork, and much more of a kind of a longer term, kind of we're on this mission together. So again, I don't want to sound like I'm bashing Silicon Valley. There's much to admire about Silicon Valley, and that will continue. But there's just enough pieces that are leading me to think that you'll see this innovation more dispersed. And I'm running into a lot of people, including on these road trips. I remember the guy who won our Rise to the Rest pitch competition in Detroit. He started his company in San Francisco, but he wanted to move back to Detroit. Why? Number one, he's from Detroit. He wanted to go home. He wanted to raise a family there. Number two, he was starting to get a little frustrated about some of the dynamics about recruiting people. 3, the cost of living was extraordinary. I mean, you couldn't, he basically, I can't remember how much he raised, $1 million or something. He decided it could go at least twice as far, maybe 3 times as far in Detroit than in San Francisco. And so for a whole host of reasons, not just one, but a whole host of reasons, he said, I'm going to move this company. I also think there was something about that where he said, I also want to be part of the renaissance of Detroit. I want to be part of that story. I want to, Detroit's down, it's fighting. I want to be part of that kind of Detroit coming back kind of thing. So there was sort of that kind of motivation as well. And I see that in other parts of the country. Well, I'm sure there's some people here in this audience who worked in New York City for a while, and worked in San Francisco for a while, or Boston for a while, but for some reason had some connection to Chicago, said, I want to be in Chicago, and there's enough things happening here that it's kind of easier to do it here than other parts of the country. But I think you'll see this boomerang of talent. We saw that globally. There are a lot of people who went to Silicon Valley 25 years ago from India, and about 10 years ago the sense was, the opportunities in India were significant. And a lot of people said, I'm going to go home and I'm going to build companies there because I feel like, I want to be part of that story, and there are great opportunities there. I think that will happen in other parts of the country. It's already happening, and then will accelerate in the third wave, as it is easier to be anywhere. It is easier to raise capital anywhere, and it has become more important to have partnerships, and some of those partners are, in other parts of the country.
So you mentioned Place. I mean, Place, started in agriculture. I mean, about 10,000 years ago, we decided we're going to chase the food, plant some stuff and stick around here. I think today Place is almost irrelevant. As you said, you should almost be anywhere. But what's interesting is you still have to sort of build these companies for the long haul. So talk about sort of I know you talked about the difference between sort of building something to last and building something to flip. Again, that feels like a distinction between the coast and what's going on.
A little bit. Again, there are a lot of people on the coast who are kind of taking a long-term view and build less, but there are also a lot of people, particularly in the second wave app economy, that their explicit goal was to build it up and get to the point where you can sell things or somebody. And so really, and then they go on to another thing. There are some people who will every year or two will do something new, and some will work, some don't work. And at the positive level, they're kind of called serial entrepreneurs, but on the negative level, they're not. They're doing things that are a little bit more transactional, a little bit more short term, and have a little bit more of a build to flip mindset, which is fine. I support any entrepreneur wants to do anything. I think they go for it. But I'm more supportive of entrepreneurs who are taking on tough problems that really are important to a lot of people's lives and are willing to take a sort of a longer term view of it, even though it's hard.
So Revolution, just that, on that sort of score, is divided itself into two different enterprises: one for growth and one focused on new businesses or startups.
Yeah, there's really two parts. Revolution Ventures, which invests in startups, Series A, Series B kind of things, and Revolution Growth, that's what we think of as speed up, which are we're typically, first of all, we're making $5 million investments in companies that are worth $20, $30 million. Growth, we're typically making $30, $40, $50 million investments in companies that are $200, $300, $400 million. So that's sort of by the way, Ashley Larson, where's Ashley? She's in the room somewhere. I'll introduce her later. She's here. She's part of the growth team, and she's going to be kind of coming to Chicago more often and try to follow up on some of these things and look for opportunities for ventures and growth. So that's how we divide it. Separate from that, we do things like these Rise of the Rest tours where we do pitch competitions, and there are winners of those pitch competitions. That's more of an angel investment, I kind of just do personally.
Right. And I think you've invested in 3 of the companies from 1871 with GFE also.
Right.
Google.
Right.
Which has been a really important partnership.
And that's what they're doing there, and we're trying to do with the Rise of the Rest. I think it's important because there is some openness now with investors in, say, Silicon Valley or New York, investing in companies in places like Chicago or these other Rise of the Rest cities. But they don't really know where to start. And so having somebody curate one of these.
Do they also want a local lead? Is that been your
I think they want some local signaling.
Yeah.
So that generally, if you're sitting in some other place, for me, sitting in D.C., if there's some company in Chicago and there's like no local investors in it, like, what do they know? I don't know. There's sort of it doesn't have to be a lot, but some.
This is oil deals in New Jersey.
It's some local support. Now that's not. There are some exceptions where that hasn't been the case and they've done well, but that is sort of the initial money historically has come locally, and then the expansion money has come from other pockets. And crowdfunding will change that somewhat. But even with crowdfunding, having some kind of people that have some understanding of the sector, some understanding of the region, some understanding of the entrepreneur and the team, that signaling is also going to be important. And even people do that with the crowdfunding sector. It's not just the idea. In those cases, they actually do look at who the investors are and what the backgrounds are, because that obviously helps inform the decision. It's sort of like there's some skepticism because the general view of investors and Milton Friedman, the economist, said this like half century ago, is the sole purpose of a company is to focus on profit. That's all. And if he tries to do anything else that blurs that focus, then the company will be less successful. And a lot of people, probably most people still believe that. But what's starting to be demonstrated is these impact companies. It's not like you have to give up on the profits or give up on the returns. Some are even better because of it, like a Chanel, and that's what's changing the mindset. As is the mindset changing of younger people who are saying, I actually don't want to do business with companies unless they have a broader purpose. I don't want to work for a company unless I believe in that broader mission. I don't want to invest in companies, and some that's beginning to create some momentum around this whole idea of impact investing.